Hi friends, welcome to Tax Cases channel. This video is on GST. Is director's salary liable to GST? Shocking, isn't it? We will watch couple of videos on this subject. Kindly watch all these videos for clarity as there are contradictory viewpoints. This contradiction makes the law interesting. Please like this video and subscribe the channel to listen to tax cases for free. The question that is raised to the authority for advance ruling in this case is related to clauses of section 97 subsection 2 of CGST Act. So the question is regarding determination of the liability to pay tax on any goods or services or both. And especially this video covers the aspect more related to director's salary. So in this case, the submission and interpretation of the applicant goes herewith, along with the facts of the case. The applicant is engaged in the manufacture of bone china crockery, transfer sheet, other utensils, items, molds and dies. He is registered with Goods and Service Tax Department and also has a GST registration number. He is availing input credit on inputs as well as input services used in or in relation to manufacture of final product as per the provisions of GST Act 2017. The applicant is a private limited company incorporated under the Companies Act 1956. Further, presently the board of directors of the company includes 6 directors. All the directors are performing all the duties and responsibilities and duties as required under the laws. However, along with that, these all directors are also working in the company at different level of management in the company, and each one of them is holding charge of procurement of raw material, production, quality checks, dispatch, accounting, etc. In other words, they are also working as employee of the company, for which they are being compensated by the company by way of regular salary and other allowances as per the company policy and as per their employment contract. In fact, these directors are treated at par with any other employee of the company as far as their employment is concerned. The company is deducting TDS on their salary and PF laws are also applicable to their service. Therefore, in all practical purposes, these directors are the employees of the company and are working as such besides being director of the company. That recently certain facts events have taken place which have made the applicant to reconsider the situation afresh. The first one which has come to the knowledge of the applicant is the decision of the Honorable AAR ruling in Karnataka given in the case of Alcon Consulting Engineers. In this ruling, the Honorable Authority of Advance Ruling has mentioned that regarding the remuneration to the directors paid by the applicant, the services provided by the directors to the company are not covered under Clause 1 of Schedule 3 to CGST Act 2017 as the director is not the employee of the company. The consideration paid to the director is in relation to the services provided by the director to the company, and the recipient of such service is the company as per Clause 93 of Section 2 of the CGST Act, and the supplier of such service is the director. The question before the AAR is not whether the service is taxable or not, but whether the supply of service is liable to tax under reverse charge mechanism. Notification number 13 bar 2017 states that on categories of supply of services mentioned in column 2 of the table supplied by a person, the whole of central tax leviable under section 9 of the CGST Act shall be paid on reverse charge basis by the recipient of such services. The notification is issued under section 9 subsection 3 of the CGST Act 2017. Entry number 6 thereon reads that services supplied by director of a company or a body corporate to the said company or the body corporate, where service provider is a director of a company or body corporate, the service receiver is company or the body corporate. In the present case, the applicant is the company and is located in the taxable territory, and the director's remuneration is paid for the services supplied by the director to the applicant company, and hence the same is liable to tax under reverse charge basis under section 9 subsection 3 of the CGST Act. This was the verdict in the Alcon case. Therefore, going by this decision, one interpretation emerges that the work done by Claycraft directors as employee would also be covered under these services, and these would be liable to GST under clause 93 of section 2 of the GST Act. However, the Honorable Authority of Advanced Ruling has not differentiated nor it has dealt with the possibility of a person being director of the company and simultaneously working as a director employee also. Claycraft Private Limited are already paying GST under reverse charge mechanism on any commission paid to the director, as such amount pertain to the service provided by them in the capacity of a director. Further, the company also submitted that the salary paid to the directors is being booked under income from salary by directors in their income tax returns. In such circumstances, a doubt has arisen about applicability of reverse charge mechanism on the salary paid to directors of the company who are also working as director employee and having been treated as employee at par with other employees. It is submitted that the services provided by an employee to his employer are under clause 1 of the schedule 3, which relates to the activities which are not treated either as supply of services or goods. Applicant submits that recently it has also been reported in press that salaries given to CEO and employees is not liable for GST. The company hence would like to refer an article published in Economic Times which stated thus: the government is looking to clarify that goods and service tax should not be applicable on salaries of chief executives sitting in head offices to people in the know said. So this situation comes after the tax department started raising queries on how companies have dealt with this issue. Economic Times had first written on November 14th last year that some of the top companies headquartered in Pune, Mumbai, New Delhi have started receiving queries from the tax department on cross-charging of CEO and CFO salaries. According to a person in CBEC, is said to clarify that common function like human resources should be out of the GST gamut. The intention of the GST law was never to tax salary, and any other interpretation should be avoided, as this would lead to prolonged litigation. Salary cannot be under the GST net, and there is an urgent need for a clarification around this, said Rohit Jain, partner ELP, a law firm. So this was also quoted by the assessee in the case law. The tax department has started questioning top companies and banks if they were passing on some of the common costs like salaries of chief executives to their branch offices. The department wants companies to proportionately distribute common costs from head office to branch offices and treat this as a supply. Once this is treated as a supply, 10% of it has to be added to the cost and 18% GST could be levied on the total amount. The applicant submits that the directors, along with being director of the board of the company, are also working as a whole-time director in the company as an employee and are being treated as at par with any other employee of the company. The company is deducting the EPF from their salaries and all other policies and benefits to them are given as per the policy decided by the company for their employees. In the light of the treatment of directors, the applicant is of the view that the directors who are working as full-time directors are de facto employees of the company, and thus the payments made to them as salary and benefits are not liable to GST, and consequently the company is not liable to pay any GST on such payments by way of reverse charge mechanism. Such being bona fide belief, they submitted that the applicant submitted the section 7, which states that for the purposes of this act, the expression supply includes a. all forms of supply of goods or services or both, such as sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease or disposal made or agreed to be made for a consideration by a person in the course of furtherance of business. B. Import of services for a consideration whether or not in the course of furtherance of business. C. The activities specified in Schedule 1 made or agreed to be made without a consideration. And D. The activities to be treated as supply of goods or supply of services as referred to in Schedule 2. Notwithstanding anything contained in the subsection 1, activities or transactions specified in Schedule 3 or such activities or transactions undertaken by the central government, a state government or any local authority in which they are engaged as public authorities as may be notified by the government on the recommendations of the council shall be treated neither as a supply of goods nor a supply of services. 3. Subject to the provisions of subsection 1 and 2, the government may, on the recommendations of the council, specify by notification the transactions that are to be treated as a supply of goods and not as a supply of service, or a supply of service not as a supply of goods. Further, entry number 1 of Schedule 3 to the CGST Act states that services by an employee to the employer in the course of or in relation to his employment. This is excluded from the definition of supply. From these provisions of the CGST Act, it is clear that an employee who is rendering his services to his employer in or in relation to his employee would not constitute service or supply, and thus the payment received by him for this purpose would not be taxable under CGST Act 2017 provision. The applicant also submits that the term employee has not been defined under either CGST Act or SGST. Therefore, to understand as to who is an employee, we would have to seek understanding from other sources. For example, as per Cambridge Dictionary, an employee is someone who is paid to work for someone else. In the case of applicant, the director is an individual, that is someone who is working for the company, someone else. Thus, from this point of view, directors are nothing but an employee as long as they are working as an individual in the company. Further, the company also liked to submit the definition of employee under various Indian laws, which would guide to make submissions clear for kind consideration of the AR. Section 2, subsection 94, clause 94 of the Companies Act. Director includes a director in the employment of the company. Applicant submits that director has been defined to include a director in the employment of the company. The definition of director is an inclusive definition. A director refers to a director who has been in employment of the company on a full-time basis and is also entitled to receive remuneration. Further, explanation appended to section 269 of the Companies Act states that in this section, appointment includes reappointment and director includes a director in the employment of the company. Section 269 of the Companies Act 1956 contained the definition of the term director appended as an explanation to section 269, which corresponds to the definition under this act. A director is a director rendering his services on whole-time basis to the company. Further, an employee, when appointed as a director of the company, will be occupying the position as the director. This position is clarified by DCA on 29 June 1964 in a letter, which provided that employee of a company also appointed as a director of the company is in the position of director. Therefore, conversely, any director working as whole-time director would be legally at par with an employee. DCA means Department of Company Affairs. Applicant further submits that section 2 clause 24 of the Companies Act 1956 deals with certain important definitions. As per section 2 clause 24, manager means an individual, not being the managing agent, who, subject to the superintendence, control and direction of the board of directors, has the management of the whole or substantially the whole of the affairs of a company and includes a director or any other person occupying the position of a manager by whatever name called and whether under a contract of service or not. Also, section 2 clause 26 of the 1956 Companies Act states as under: managing director means a director who by virtue of an agreement with the company or of a resolution passed by the company in general meeting or by its board of directors or by virtue of its memorandum or articles of association is entrusted with any powers of management which would not otherwise be exercisable by him, and includes a director occupying the position of managing director by whatever name called. Further, the applicant also cited the definition of an employee under Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act, which says any person who is employed for wages in any kind of work, manual or otherwise, in or in connection with the work of an establishment, and who gets his wages directly or indirectly from the employer, and includes any person 1. Employed by or through a contractor in or in connection with the work of the establishment. 2. Engaged as an apprentice, not being an apprentice engaged under Apprentices Act 1961 or under the standing orders of the establishment. The applicant submits that the whole-time director of the company are appointed by the board of directors in the company and are given various responsibilities, thereby bringing them under the definition of an employee. Further, in the Employee Provident Fund Scheme 1952, employee means a person appointed to or born on the cadre of the staff of corporation other than persons on deputation. This definition of employee also completely brings the whole-time director under the definition of an employee, as none of them are on deputation from any other organization. These definitions mentioned here makes it clear that the director of the company is in the employment of the company and his services would be excluded from the provisions of CGST Act by way of exclusion provided in the serial number 1 of the Schedule 3 that we discussed earlier. Further, in the applicant's case, Memorandum and Articles of Association at point number 43 thereof clearly mentions appointment of director. The article in the Memorandum and Articles read, the Articles of Association read, the directors may from time to time, subject to section 197A of the Companies Act, appoint one or more of their body to the office of Managing Director for such period and such terms as they think fit, and subject to the terms of any agreement entered into in any particular case, may revoke such appointment. His appointment shall be automatically determined if ceases to be a director. The managing director may not be paid any remuneration or may be paid such remuneration whether by way of salary, commission or participation in profit of partly in one way and partly in another as the directors may determine. Moreover, the applicant relied in the case of Regional Director ESI versus Sarathi Lines Private Limited, 29 January 1997. The Honorable High Court of Karnataka held as under. We find it not possible to agree with the wide proposition of law put forward by the Employees Insurance Code that treating a person who is a managing director of a company as an employee is not justified at all under any circumstances. The question that has to be examined is whether in this particular case the managing director, who is admittedly receiving a remuneration of 500 rupees per month, would come within the definition of employee under the Employee State Insurance Act. Unlike in the case of partner receiving remuneration, it cannot be said that a director or managing director of a company owning the factory or establishment can never be an employee also. The term employee is defined under Section 2, Clause 9 of the ESI Act as any person employed for wages in or in connection with the work of a factory or establishment to which the Act applies. It is true in the case of a director or managing director of a company is not an employee of the company, but an agent inasmuch as the company cannot act in its own person, but has only to act through their directors. Still, it is possible that such a director or managing director can have a dual capacity of an agent as well as an employee. It will depend on his work and the terms of his employment as discernible from the Articles of Association or Terms of Agreement. This was the view taken by the Supreme Court in 1973. Even though it was a case arising under the Income Tax Act, one of the tests laid down to ascertain whether a person is a servant or an agent is to examine whether under the terms of his employment, the employer exercises a supervisory control in respect of the work entrusted to him. A servant acts under the direct control and supervision of his master, whereas the agent, in exercise of his work, is not subjected to the direct control or supervision of the principal, though he is bound to exercise his authority in accordance with all lawful orders and instructions, which may be given to him from time to time by his principal. After examining the Articles of Association of the company, the Supreme Court came to the conclusion that powers of the managing director had to be exercised within the terms and limitations prescribed thereunder, and subject to the control and supervision of the directors, which would indicate that he was employed as a servant of the company. This view was also held by the Honorable Supreme Court in case of Ram Parshad versus Commissioner of Income Tax on 24th August 1972. And the order read, the powers of the assessee have to be exercised within the terms and limitations prescribed thereunder, and subject to the control and supervision of the directors, which in our view is indicative of his being employed as a servant of the company. We would therefore hold that the remuneration payable to him is salary. In this view, the other questions need not be considered and the appeal is dismissed with cause. Therefore, from these legal provisions and the articles and memorandum of association of the applicant, it is amply clear that in our case, it is the board of director who appoints the director and other whole-time director. And once it is admitted that there is an appointment, then it is obvious that there exists a relationship of employer and employee between the board of director and managing director or the whole-time director. The existence of employer-employee relationship must put to rest the doubt that the salary and other allowances, such as traveling, medical, etc., paid to the director and director are in the form of salary, and thus is covered under entry number 1 of the Schedule 3 of CGST Act 2017. Thus, finally, the applicant is of the opinion in this case that the salary and other benefits paid to the directors is not taxable under CGST Act 2017, and consequently there is no liability cast upon the applicant to pay GST under reverse charge mechanism as envisaged under entry number 6 of notification number 13/2017. Next. Questions raised to the AR by the applicant are: A. Whether GST is payable under RCM on the salary paid to director of the company who is paid salary as per the contract. B. Whether the situation would change from A if the director also is a part-time director in other company also. Comments of the jurisdictional officer. The jurisdictional officer, Assistant Commissioner State Taxes, Special Circle 2, Jaipur, has submitted his comments in his letter. So those contents goes like this. The salary paid to the directors by the company, the services provided by the directors to the company are not covered under Clause 1 of the Schedule 3 to Central Goods and Services Tax. As the director is not the employee of the company, the consideration or the salary paid to the director is in relation to the service provided by the director to the company, and the recipient of such service is the company as per Clause 93 of Section 2 of the CGST Act 2017. And the supplier of such services, the director. Notification number 13/2017 stated that on categories of supply of services mentioned in column 2 of the table, supplied by a person mentioned in the table, the whole of central tax leviable under Section 9 of the CGST Act and Rajasthan Goods and Services Tax Act shall be paid on reverse charge basis by the recipient of such services. In this case, the company is located in the taxable territory and the director's remuneration is paid for the services supplied by the director to the applicant company, and hence the same is liable to tax under reverse charge basis under Section 9 subsection 3 of the Rajasthan Goods and Service Tax Act. Let us look at the findings, analysis and conclusion in this case. While going through the detailed submission by the appellant, the Authority for Advanced Ruling, observed that presently there are 6 directors in the company and all of them working at different level of management. And each one of them is holding charge of procurement of raw material, production, quality checks, dispatch, accounting, etc. Further, it is observed that consideration in form of salary and commission paid to the directors by the company is against the services provided by them to the company, and the company is recipient of such service and directors are the supplier. The applicant is already paying GST by way of reverse charge mechanism on the commission paid to the directors, treating as such amount pertain to the services provided by them in the capacity of a director. The applicant is already paying GST by way of RC. In the instant case, question before the AR is whether the consideration paid to the directors for providing services to the company is liable for GST under RCM as per notification 13/2017. The term consideration in relation to the supply of goods or services is defined in section 2 clause 31 of the CGST Act. Consideration in relation to the supply of goods or services or both includes A. Any payment made or to be made, whether in money or otherwise, in respect of, in response to, or for the inducement of the supply of goods or services or both, whether by the recipient or by any other person, but shall not include any subsidy given by the central government or a state government. B. The monetary value of any act or forbearance in respect of, in response to, or for the inducement of the supply of goods or services or both, whether by the recipient or by any other person, but shall not include any subsidy given by the central government or a state government. Provided that a deposit given in respect of the supply of goods or services or both shall not be considered as payment made for such supply unless the supplier applies such deposit as consideration for the said supply. AAR observed that the consideration paid to director for supply of services to the company is specifically covered under notification number 30 of 2017. So in the category of supply, the notification says services supplied by a director of a company or a body corporate to the said company or body corporate. Service provider is director, service recipient is the company. AAR further observed that consideration paid to the directors is against the supply of services. The services are provided by directors to the applicant company and are not covered under the exemption in clause 1 of schedule 3 of the CGST Act, as the directors are not the employee of the company. In the instant case, director is the supplier of services and applicant company is the recipient of services. So, AAR said it is clear that the services rendered by the director to the company for which consideration is paid to them in any head is liable to pay GST under RC. It also observed that the applicant company is located in the taxable territory and the director's consideration is paid for the supply of services by directors to the applicant company and hence same is liable to GST on RCM basis. Reference notification number 13/2017. The notification 13/2017 has given the distinct identity to the services provided by the director and specifically included in the category of service on which GST will be payable under RC. The case laws cited by the applicant are not relevant in the present case inasmuch as that the liability to pay GST under RCM in this case is required to be decided on the basis of the existing provisions of the CGST law. So these were some of the findings and analysis of the AR. Hence the ruling for question A. The consideration paid to the directors by the applicant company will attract GST under RCM as it is covered under entry number 6 of the notification number 13/2017 issued under section 9 subsection 3 of the CGST Act. Ruling for question B. Situation will remain same as A and will attract GST under RCM. Very tricky judgment. GST being a new legislation is marred by controversies. This ruling is a big controversy with respectful submission to the Honorable Rajasthan AR. Employer and employee relationship and consideration thereon is out of the service tax law. It can be seen that Rajasthan AR in case of Claycraft has erred in making the interpretation of the law. However, it is to be understood that Section 103 of CGST Act provides that the order of the advance ruling pronounced by the authority or the appellant authority shall be binding only on the applicant who has sought it. It is clarified by the board that the part of directors' remuneration which are declared as salaries in the books of a company and subjected to TDS under Section 192 of the IT Act are not taxable, being consideration for services by an employee to the employer in the course of or in relation to his employment in terms of Schedule 3 of the GST Act 2017. Similar interpretation is warranted under GST also. We will see more clarity with few more rulings in this subject. Please don't forget to watch them. So the above clarification given by the CBIC is like overriding AR applicability on others, at least from perspective of interpretation. Of course, AR ruling is applicable only to Claycraft and not the other assessees. So clarification issued by CBIC is really welcome. They have clarified that because it is employer-employee relationship, there is no need to pay GST on RCM basis for director's salary as such. So I hope you have understood the case law. Claycraft is the company. They went to AR Rajasthan. Rajasthan AR held against them and told director salary is subjected to GST on RCM. Later, CBIC has issued a clarification telling that anything is paid as salary to a director, then that is not included under RCM basis for paying GST. Neither director is supposed to charge any GST as it is a salary. So I hope the matter is clear, and we will see in the next Karnataka AR video how the analysis is made. Thank you for a patient hearing. In order to get more such videos, kindly subscribe this channel and click on bell button to receive new videos in real time. Please like this video in order to encourage to make more such videos.